Hamjambo, this is Ruth Kamau, and welcome to Wasafiri Africa, where we celebrate Africa and things African. Situated on the southern coast of the Gulf of Guinea is Accra, the capital of Ghana. At one point known as the Gold Coast, Accra is inextricably linked to the devastating transatlantic slave trade that saw 1 million people trafficked from its shores. Yet, testament to the resilience of her people, covering almost 226 kilometers, Accra today is a bustling city famous for Kente cloth, vibrant markets and smart stores juxtaposed against luxury hotels, historical sites and museums. A visit to Accra is fragrant with Africanicity. Twendeni, Africa is ready. Saeed Salahudeen is a Ghanaian based in Accra, the capital of Ghana, where he's a senior manager at Afrobarometer and also manages the Africa Judicial Independence Fund. Saeed is a lawyer, member of the Ghanaian Bar, and also a practicing chartered accountant and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana. Afrobarometer has partners spread all over Africa, and as senior manager, Saeed travels broadly on the continent, including South Africa and so to Cape Town, where he has been attending the International Association of Women Judges' 17th biannual conference just concluded in Cape Town. Saeed is motivated by the enormous potential of the African continent, flagshipped by the exuberance and early adoptive youth who form the bulk of the population, along with natural resources and the geolocation of Africa in relation to the rest of the world. With Africa as our gyroscope and our eyes on the future, let's be guided along by Saeed Salahudeen. Akwaba, Saeed. It is saying?
Yeah.
Welcome. And, I have never spoken Wali before, but this word Akwaba, we've seen it like when you land at the airport, you see it.
Yeah, but that's not Wali, that's Akan.
That's Akan?
That's Akan, yes.
Okay.
That's Akan, which is one of the languages in Ghana.
Yes.
But my language is Wali, which you have rightly mentioned. In Wali, Akwaba would have means, in Wali we would rather say that Niyahe.
Niyahe is
welcome.
Okay, yeah, that is wonderful. I think one of the things that I love most about Wasafiri Africa is that in this particular instance, when we're thinking about traveling across Africa, we are always exposing ourselves to the different languages on the continent. And that's why I like to greet people with the language which they speak. So your language is Wali. And that is the one where the greeting is?
If you want to say welcome, you say Niyahe.
Niyahe. Okay. And Akan is what we say Akwaba. Okay. I think that's good to know the difference so that when you land in the airport, you know that the two different languages. Well, thank you so much, Saeed. I feel very privileged to have you sitting here with me because here we are at Ikaya and you always grace us with your presence because you booked to stay with us. And, when we get talking and then I find out what you do, it's completely amazing. And it's just wonderful to have the opportunity to talk to you about Afrobarometer. Let's start there. You were here at the International Judicial Conference for the Women Judges. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So thank you so much for the opportunity and the kind words. I'm here to attend, or I've just attended the 17th biannual conference of the International Association of Women Judges. This conference is, as the name depicts, it's a conference for judges all over the world, female judges who normally converge at a particular locations once every 2 years to brainstorm of issues of justice, gender, and other related matters. This year's conference was about resilience in leadership and then the role of women in fighting gender-based violence.
Wow, that is really interesting because here in South Africa, gender-based violence, the president has called it an epidemic. And so what I hear you say now is particularly important and powerful, because it means that it has reached that point at which the judiciary, global judiciary of women, are taking this particular aspect of abuse very seriously.
Very so. They've made mention of the fact that even in some countries there are laws. Some of the laws in some of the countries are not very helpful, in the sense that you see some of the countries have laws that really think that the accused person must rather, the past of the accused must be taken into account. The fact that an accused, or the victim had been engaged in some immoral activities, some judges will want to say that, or lawyers want to say that because of that, then it presupposes that, or it's alliances for another person to take advantage of this person. But the judges have raised issues about these kind of issues, and then they are saying that the issue of gender-based violence, spousal abuse, and others are real. And even in light or in instances where a particular country laws are not really helpful, they will resort to what they call judicial activism when interpreting the law.
How does the judicial activism pan out if they apply it?
So judicial activism is to say that, yes, you, in interpreting the law, you are not only looking at the letter of the law, you are taking into consideration the social impact of the issue.
Which is very
real. Which is very important.
Yes.
Before you come to judgment, you have to also look at the social impact of whatever that is going on, beside just reading the letter of the law.
Yeah, because I mean, when you think about gender-based violence in the context of South Africa, we see that it affects very young children as well. You know, infants, you know, the girl child is at such high risk here. And then with these young people in university, when they break off relationships, not many times, but it is quite frequent that the young man doesn't want to take, no for an answer, and then the woman is harmed, and many times even her life is lost in that particular instance because they will be killed. So the effect on society is tremendous.
Absolutely, and in the case of South Africa in particular, I remember one of the judges in South Africa having to walk us through how far the country has gone. Initially, the laws were such in South Africa were such that it was difficult for a man to be raped. The rape laws was said that only a woman could be raped, but now there has made a revision, and then just as a woman can be raped, a man can also be raped. Another area was the fact that it was difficult for the law to hold, to enforce marital rape. That is to say that once a woman is married, she has given her consent to sex perpetually. But now, the fact that a woman is married does not mean that she has given her consent to sex perpetually. And marital rape is now enforceable in South Africa.
You know, just as a woman, I'm listening to you talk about, the aspect of marital rape, and, it's so, it is one of those things that even women themselves will be very careful before they expose the fact that they're being abused in that way by their husband. So for it to now be recognized in the law here, that is a useful and very important step.
Absolutely. And at the opening of the ceremony, and no less a person than the president of South Africa was there to give an opening speech, and he had lauded the women judges for bringing the conference, choosing the conference team, and he has also pledged his support to ensure that there is an end to gender-based violence.
So the International Association of Women's Judges was a collaboration of all the women judges in the whole world, which is what you said.
The whole world?
Yes.
From Afghanistan to Bahamas to Ukraine to Papua New Guinea to Ghana to Nigeria to New Zealand to Zimbabwe, all over the world, to the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, everywhere in the world, more than 800 judges across the world attended the conference.
You know, that just puts such a broad smile on my face, because I start thinking about this collaboration that is going on. But it's just that to imagine that now the women in the judiciary, the judges at that high level, that senior level, are coming together. And this is the 17th biannual conference, which means, you know, it's been happening. But obviously the man on the street, the woman on the street doesn't know this. But it's very exciting to know that these conversations are being had. So for you, you manage a fund that would be used to support this kind of activities.
Yes, so our fund, the Africa Judicial Independence Fund, is a fund that is set up, it's an initiative of Afrobarometer to support the issue of judicial independence in general, and then access to justice and any other matter that is related to justice. So we are not just, even though the name is Africa Judicial Independence Fund, yes, our general purpose is to strengthen judicial independence, but we are also interested in matters of justice in society.
So when you say you're interested in matters of justice in society, does that involve matters such as detention without trial, torture? Do those come under that umbrella?
Yes, so if we look at what you have just mentioned, detention without trial and torture and, if you like, human trafficking and all of that, these are matters that are anti-justice. If you look at the United Nations Convention on Human Rights, these are matters that are against it. So to the extent that any matter will infringe on the fundamental human rights of individuals, we are interested in all matters that will uphold the human rights of an individual. And because the judiciary is the final arbiter when it comes to the enforcement of human rights and other rights, that's why we think that once you support the judiciary, you are supporting the enforcement of rights, you are supporting justice, because at the end of the day, the judiciary is the final arbiter when it comes to matters of justice.
The intention of the fund is to help across the continent. That gives you a certain amount of independence. And do you have to do this anonymously, or can you make it public that you're supporting certain events or certain initiatives?
Yeah, it's not anonymous, it's not hidden. It is public. We have our website. We publish our activities. We publish our reports. We are not working in silence or in silo. Our work is out there. What we are doing to us is laudable. We want to support the judiciary so that the judiciary can administer justice without fear and without favor.
And Afrobarometer, this is an aspect of Afrobarometer.
Yes.
What was the main reason for Afrobarometer coming into existence?
So generally, Afrobarometer came into existence about some 25 years ago. Prior to that, when it comes to issues of policy making and policy formulation on the African continent, and we did not factor or take into account the views of the ordinary citizen. Normally, people would just sit into conferences and then they rather think that what they think are the views of the ordinary people is what they will use for policy formulation. But having realized this gap, our work is accessible to all, because what we are doing is to support the administration of justice. And when you support the administration of justice, you are supporting the enforcement of fundamental human rights, you are supporting democracy on the continent. So our work is not hidden.
Do you get pushback that democracy is not an African thing? You know, some people say, no, democracy is not really African. What do you do when you get those kind of conversations popping up?
So if you say democracy is not African, I don't accept that. Perhaps if we say that, yeah, there is, we can Africanize it, we can let it, adapt it, and let suit it to our situation, that is, I agree. But to say that any system of governance that allow the ordinary citizens to participate in selecting their leaders is not African, it is African. Even before democracy, how chiefs were installed and ensconced in Africa, it was through a collective consultative process. That in itself is a democratic system.
So let's take Ghana, for example. I'm just coming to mind now the whole process of kings and chiefs in Ghana, for instance, because I think Ghana is one of the places where some of these practices are still happening, isn't it?
Yes.
So when we think about that, and some of these practices, are they inherited? The chief system, is it inherited, or is that consultation still happening?
So chieftaincy has become institutionalized in Ghana. So, and even the Constitution of Ghana has defined who is a chief. So who is a chief is a legal word. You must meet those criteria. The issue of chieftaincy is institutionalized. And even when you look at the Ghanaian constitution, who is a chief is defined. And when it comes to matters of adjudication on chieftaincy issues, even the constitution rather set up what they call the House of Chiefs. So it doesn't even go to the normal court. They allow the chiefs themselves, with the assistance of a lawyer, to resolve their own disputes.
And do you see that repeated anywhere in Africa? Do you see that system replicated?
I haven't really looked at the other countries, but for the Ghana in particular, the chieftaincy is in the constitution, and when it comes to even the court system, there is what we call the House of Chiefs, which means that it's also recognized as a body to adjudicate disputes involving chiefs. So you need to go through that, and before you even come to the traditional court. I know that the other countries have the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Those are not courts. They are ways to resolve dispute outside of the court system. But for the House of Chiefs, it's like part and parcel of the court system.
And with Afrobarometer, because you're keeping an eye on everything, do you also monitor what happens in these particular instances in these other courts which are run by the chiefs?
So for Afrobarometer, what we do is to gather the views of the ordinary person on the continent in terms of democracy, in terms of standards of living, and in terms of cost of living on the continent.
Oh.
So we conduct surveys. We ask the ordinary person about what you think. What is your view about the judiciary? Do you think that the judges are corrupt? What is your experience? Have you encountered a situation where you have to pay bribe to access justice? So we interview the citizens on their beliefs and on their experiences.
No wonder then barometer, because it's a measurement. It's a measurement. Okay, so that's very clear on the judicial aspect of it. But you measure other things, as you said, the cost of living.
Yeah.
So when you look at the continent now and you think about, how technology is coming into play and how you personally are excited about the youth, and the youth are very early adopters, they take on technology. How are you finding the discrepancies, let's say, for instance, between West and East or South and North Africa? Are you seeing like there's alignment, or is there a lot of discrepancy?
So normally when we gather our data, we do these comparisons, which the data is available for everybody. We do what we call Pan-African profiles. So we are able to compare the West, as you are asking, the East, country by country analysis on topical issues, and then we can make informed decisions. So we have those reports. And one thing I want to say is that the Afrobarometer report is not hidden. Anybody can just Google and come to our website, and then you can get the data and you can see it for yourself. But yes, we normally prepare what we call Pan-African profiles, and you can see the country by country analysis on topical issues.
Saeed, you and I have had a couple conversations over the last 2 years, as you've been so kind to us to stay here at Ikaya. I've never actually known that. And with Wasafiri Africa, it's about traveling on the continent and gathering information about the continent so that we can get to better understand this magnificent continent of ours, but also to understand the people and what makes us tick, to understand the nuances here and there. And I think as a Pan-Africanist, now you've just made my job so easy because you're saying it's already there.
It's there. You can get data if you want a particular country. You can get it if you want comparisons between country A and country B over time. All of the data is available. If you want to customize the data for your particular needs, we have what we call the online data analysis ODA tool on our website. It is there. If you don't know how to use the ODA, there is a helpline you can call. You will be guided, and then you can customize the data as you want.
I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat here, or maybe a cat somewhere else on the continent, because that Cheshire cat is in England, so I need to come back to the continent. I'm grinning because I'm thinking, this is just wonderful, because then it just makes it so much easier to understand the continent. But then who funds Afrobarometer? Somebody has to pay for all this.
Yeah, Afrobarometer is funded by bilateral and multilateral organizations. We are funded by foundations such as the Hewlett Foundation. Sometimes we get funding from the World Bank. We get funding from Mo Ibrahim Foundation. You might have heard of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. They rely on the Afrobarometer data to get the Mo Ibrahim Governance Index. So this underscores the importance of the Afrobarometer data. Because of that, they fund us. We get funding from sometimes individuals. We have now even resorted to getting funding from Africa rather than from outside of the continent. So we have launched, if you go to our website, anybody can donate to Afrobarometer, no matter how small the amount is. We value it. You will get to see our online donation form. You can just click in any amount that you want to donate. You will be able to donate to Afrobarometer. That is how we gather these fundings from all of these sources, from individuals, from corporate bodies, from governmental bodies around the world, and then we use it to provide this public good for the good of the continent.
You know what I've just thought when I was listening to you, that the fact that your net is so wide means that you don't have allegiances. You can actually be very transparent. And I just want to clarify, when you said Hewlett Foundation, is that the sugar?
No, Hewlett Foundation is the HP laptop, the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation.
Okay.
Hewlett, HP stands for the Hewlett and Packard.
Yes,
so
yes.
The Hewlett has his foundation and the Packard also have their foundation. So the Hewlett Foundation is normal what is called the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. There is one of the co-owners of the HP laptop, and they fund Afrobarometer for some time now. We get funding from the World Bank. We get funding from Mo Ibrahim Foundation. We get funding from GIZ. We get funding from other organizations. We used to get funding from the USAID, but unfortunately the USAID funding is shut. That notwithstanding, it is impactful, but we remain resilient.
In Kiswahili, there's a saying that says, kuuliza si ujinga. To ask is not stupidity. Because of living in South Africa, when you said Hewlett, I thought of Taggart Hewlett, the sugar multinational. I never thought of the computer company, so I'm glad I asked. What can you say about the Mo Ibrahim Foundation? Because you said that they actually rely on your data. Who are they and what do they do?
So the Mo Ibrahim Foundation is also a foundation that promotes governance in Africa. For some time now, the Mo Ibrahim Foundation will normally bring out the Mo Ibrahim Governance Index across Africa. They rely on data to rank African countries in terms of democracy, in terms of judicial independence, and other important matters. So for them to do the index, they will need the data. And they don't go around the continent speaking to people the way we go. Afrobarometer has already gone around the continent, sourced this data. So the Mo Ibrahim Foundation has come to the realization that instead of them also going to the continent to gather this data from the people, why not rely on the data from Afrobarometer and use it to set up our our index. And the Mo Ibrahim Index has been very useful. After setting up the index and ranking, there were times that the Mo Ibrahim Foundation will select one of the African countries that governance is good and even provide monetary compensation or award to that president. There were instances that African countries where the foundation thinks that the president has administered well, and then the Mo Ibrahim Foundation will normally award some amount of money to that particular president, so that it will serve as an example for others to emulate.
You know, my mouth is hanging open right now, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, wow, there's actually an incentive for running your country as you should.
Absolutely.
That is good news, because I guess at the end of the day, we are all human, and incentives, motivation, helps. And so that's good. That's good news. And I'm actually sitting here learning quite a bit. I'm learning a lot. Why Accra for the Afrobarometer? Why are you headquartered in Accra?
So Afrobarometer was set up as an initiative of about 4 or 3 individuals across Africa. Professor Bratton is one of the founding fathers of Afrobarometer. Mike Bratton is one of the, as I said, Mike Bratton is one of the founding fathers. Then Professor Emmanuel Jima Boadi is also one of the founding fathers. And then we also have Professor Robert Martis. So these 3 professors, one was based in South Africa, Cape Town, University of Cape Town.
Amazing.
One was also based in Michigan State University in the United States, and one was based in Accra, Ghana. So these were 3 professors who thought that we can come together. They met at a conference and they thought that we are all aligned some way, somehow. Why can't we come together and do this survey across Africa? So these 3 professors, one based in Ghana, one based in South Africa, one based in United States, came together, started small, and then they were doing the survey. They did the surveys up to a point that because of that, even the Secretariat of Afrobarometer was based in Michigan. And later it moved to Cape Town. Cape Town had housed the Secretariat for Afrobarometer for a long time. Then it's also moved to Ghana. It was a project. It was not a corporate institution. Then later it grew big, and there was the need to now institutionalize Afrobarometer and make it a separate, independent legal entity. Then that was done, and then there was the need for now to get the headquarters. So we went through an open bid, look at countries. Kenya was selected as one of the potential, locations for the Secretariat. Accra was also, and some other countries. Then the committee reviewed all of this, and then eventually Accra was chosen by a recommendation of the committee.
I know it. They say every journey begins with one step, right? The first step, and you don't have to have a big number of people to make a huge difference. These 3 people came together and they've done what they've done. So, how long have you been with Afrobarometer now? So,
I have been working with Afrobarometer for 5 years and more. I've been working with them since 2020, and it's now 5 years and counting, and it's been a very progressive journey. So far, so good.
And in your experience, what would you say are the main, you could say concerns, something that keeps popping up, maybe 2 or 3 things that keep popping up on the barometer as problems to watch? I will start with that.
Problems to watch is about the demand for democracy on the continent as against the supply of democracy. What do I mean by demand? We always ask the question whether or not Africans prefer democratic governance. That's the demand. Do you like democracy? The demand is there. They said, yes, we need democracy. Then we ask the question, what you expect from your leaders who are democratically elected? Do you get that, the dividends from democracy? They said no. So on one hand, the African citizens say that we like democracy. On the other hand, they say that we don't feel the dividends of democracy. So there is a demand for democracy, but there is low supply of democracy.
Who would have ever thought that would have been an economic equation? But there you have it.
Yes, now we are going into
now we're going into the chartered accountant field of,
yes,
of measurement.
That is it. So we are saying that on one hand, African citizens, to put it simple, African citizens prefer democratic governance. On the other hand, African citizens are becoming disillusioned, disappointed, and disgruntled in the sense that their expectations of some of the benefits that accrue from a democratic governance are not felt.
Wow, that's profound, and living in a country where we've just had the government of national unity come in about 7 months ago, being born in a country which is having its fifth president, I believe, Kenyatta, Moi, Kibaki, Uhuru, Ruto. Yeah, so fifth president. There are all these questions that are coming up about democracy. Is our vote actually respected, and does it count? And those are, even with the government of national unity here in South Africa, people are saying, is this squabbling? Is it helping us, or is it now driving other interests? So that's the first thing, the demand and supply of democracy. Okay, what's another one?
So another thing that when you pick the Afrobarometer data, that is quite worrying is in the sense that there is now growing support for military intervention, which is worrying. You go to some of the countries, you ask the question, do they prefer that when things go wrong, the military should intervene? They said yes. Yes, they said yes. So we asked them, do you think that when the democratically elected leaders are failing, the military should step in? And interestingly, there is this growing answer that is pointing to yes.
So
increasingly, many African citizens are saying that there should be military interventions where the democracy is failing.
Sure, that's inflammatory. I mean, I'm not saying you're saying something inflammatory. I'm just thinking the consequences of it are quite different than what you would expect. And have you seen this to be something that is coming up across the continent, or is it certain parts of the continent that are less wary of a military government?
Yeah, even comparatively in Ghana, it was low. But when you compare the recent survey in round 9 against the previous one, you increasingly, even Ghana, that is a very stable, democratically acceptable country, the whole of Africa. You ask the Ghanaian ordinary person, and increasingly they are beginning to say that the military should come in, which means that it's a problem. You go to the other West African countries, look at what is happening in Niger, look at what is happening in Burkina Faso, look at what is happening in Mali, look at the recent agitation in Kenya, and it's even in South Africa, the recent elections. So it's a pointer to the fact that there is a general despondence.
Oh, the despondency is there, yes, definitely.
Yes.
But
when the despondence is, that's why some of the citizens are now saying that, yes, so in instances where the democratically elected government is failing, some of the citizens are beginning to say that we support that the military should step in and stabilize the situation. However, let me add, many of them are saying that should only be temporary.
And then the temporary never really is ever temporary.
That is the problem.
That is the problem.
So temporarily becomes permanent.
It becomes permanent because then you have the military who people perceive to be disciplined, who people perceive not to be interested in commercial interests. And then they discover, no, but these are human beings. And, if they have absolute power, as the cliche goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And then you have a new problem with more accessibility to force I would say, because, it's a different way of being. But, hence we're not passing judgment. More what we're looking at now is what is coming back. So what would be the third thing? So we have democracy, supply and demand, very low. Second thing is the concern about the military coming in, and having that kind of rule, temporary, we say. What would be the third thing?
So the third is about trust in public institutions. Our data, we've been asking the same question, the level of trust in the executive, in the legislature, and in the judiciary, and across board, across all arms of government, across all the 39 countries that were surveyed recently in round 9. There is an increasing decline of trust in governmental institutions. And no wonder they are now saying that they will prefer the military to stabilize. So there's a connection. They are becoming less trusting when it comes to the judiciary. They are less trusting in the executive arm of government. They are less trusting in the legislative arm of government. So, and these are the three pillars that make up democracy.
Yeah, and then they're also less trusting, it might be even of the fourth estate with the media, wondering how much of that is being interfered with, and how unbiased are they, how transparent are they, which agenda are they pushing.
When you become an ally, then you cannot do your work as expected, because one of the key pillars of any good governance system is independent state institutions. We want to see the media being independent. We want to see independent bodies that work without any influence or control from the government. But if you have a system where the media is controlled by the state, then the question is, can this same media make a negative reportage against the very government? That is the question.
And also I'm thinking to myself now, when I think of the supply and demand of democracy, and I think about, the judicial autonomy, and then the media autonomy as well. Does Afrobarometer look at elections? I know that you might not be involved in monitoring the elections, but are you involved in any way in gathering information during elections, post-elections, trying to identify how many elections could be said to have been fair and transparent?
So unfortunately, we don't go into the arena of elections like predicting who's likely to win an election. We don't do that. We don't observe elections and other related matters. We provide general data on the citizens' views on democracy, on governance, on living standards, and other related matters. But we do not go specific into electoral-related matters.
And do you think, what is the general feeling, let's say, about the cost of living on the continent? Do people feel it's getting more affordable, or is it staying more or less the same, or is it getting more expensive?
So people experience, we normally ask this question we call lived poverty.
Lived poverty?
Lived poverty.
Okay.
How you have experienced poverty. And many of them, the index is increasing. Many of them are saying that they have experienced poverty. They've gone without food. They have no access to potable water. They don't have motorable roads. Some of them said that they don't even have what it takes to take them through for a day. So when it comes to the lived poverty question, it is increasing. So cost of living is becoming high across the continent.
I think that's a very interesting way of taking it, lived poverty. So it is how in any ordinary day, now we're not talking about how much you earn. No. We're not talking about, whether it's a minimum wage situation or anything. It's whether this person is able to access enough food for the day, at least twice a day.
That is the lived poverty.
Yes.
And then many people experience lived poverty.
So because it's not really about minimum wage and that sort of thing, when you think about subsistence farmers in rural Africa, let's say, would you find that index is lower because they can feed themselves, or is it just as bad as in urban and peri-urban areas?
So the way we do our data, we normally sample it in a manner that everybody has an equal chance of being selected. That is, so even our sampling is done strategically, the kind of sample that we choose. And we choose the sample in a manner that everybody has an equal chance of being selected. So if, whether you are a farmer or you are in the urban area or you are in the rural area, everybody has an equal chance of being selected. So the sample becomes representative, and therefore the data becomes representative. So if we tell you that there is leaf poverty, it means that there is really leaf poverty, because we have done the sample in a manner that everybody had an equal chance of being selected.
Sure. That's, when I think about, like, for instance, when I'm in Nairobi and then let's say I'm on one of the bypasses or something and I can see people walking to work. It's throngs of people walking to work. And so they probably woke up very early, had something to eat, something that can sustain them for most of the day, and then they will walk to work, probably not have anything for lunch, and then walk back home and have a meal, maybe the same meal, but they work like maybe in the industrial area or in areas like this. And I still have difficulty about that. In Nairobi, there's a train that takes people to work from Eastlands and that sort of thing. But the train doesn't cover certain areas, like Kibera, coming into Nairobi and places like that. I have no idea what the situation in Mombasa is. Then I think of myself here in Cape Town, and the N2 is madness. Between 5 and 8 a.m., it's like a parking lot. And it's just taxis of people coming to work. And they will wake up at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning in order to be at work by 7:30 or 8. And then in the evening from 4 o'clock until maybe 6, it's another parking lot. The traffic is really very, very slow. And I just see this as also a form of poverty, because there's no ease of living. And to eke out the living that people have to get out of their day, there's so much effort into that. It looks like, to me, like there definitely needs to be a way that government can make this process of earning a living, especially in urban areas, more humane.
Absolutely. So if you look at what you have just described, so if you don't have what to eat, how much less transport? So people are grappling with what to eat to sustain them for a day. There are places that you go, even the person cannot guarantee or is not guaranteed with the next meal for the following day. That is how bad the situation is across the continent. I remember my personal example. Before I came to Cape Town, I parked my car close to a gas station, and a young man with motorbike who was pushing the motorbike, he got to me and he told me that I should give him money so that he could buy some small fuel, and that he was on the motorbike going somewhere, and at a point the fuel is finished and he doesn't have money, so he's pushing the motorbike. He's been pushing it, he was sweating. He got to me, he asked me that I should get him some money so that he could buy gas and then continue. So I looked at him and I gave him the money.
Wonderful.
This is an example. This is in Accra.
Yeah.
This is in Accra.
Yeah.
And he took the money and went and bought the fuel, and he continued. I could see that this guy is even using the motorbike to work, because many of the young people now in Africa, you go to Uganda, they call it border.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the motorbikes. That tells you that the kind of majority of the young people of Uganda resorting to border.
I mean, in Nairobi, borders, they call them boda. It's the way we, people go to work also instead of using the taxis. Matatus there.
If government had an affordable transport system, if government could provide other livelihood of employment for the youth, you think that you have 80% of your youth who will just get one motorbike and then use it. So, and why are the youth even using the motorbike? Because they have seen that there is a demand for public transport, but the supply is not there.
Yeah, so it does create.
They come in to fill that gap.
Yeah, so it does create opportunities for employment. What would be wonderful if this could be done in a structured way.
And you think that the population is youthful, which means that there's still hope. Many of the people on the continent are young, so it's a youthful population. So if you have a youthful population, it means that in itself is good. There are other continents that people are now even being encouraged to give birth. Even China, that we're saying people should stop, they were regulating birth. Now China is now promoting birth. If you look at even places like Singapore and others, that the population is aging, but Africa, the population is very youthful. But if you have this youthful population, and we've been asking this question about migration, and another area that I didn't even talk. Many of them want to move outside of the continent.
Yeah, but that's why I want. Yeah, but that's why I want us to talk about these issues about the continent and celebrate it. I know that Wasafiri Africa is a teeny tiny drop in the ocean of this discussion, but the fact is, this continent has a lot going for it that we just need to tap into. There's in Kenya there's a system that evolved way in the 70s it's called Jua Kali Enterprise, where people just start making things, making chairs, making tables, making things. So it's very well known as Jua Kali. Here I see a lot of Zimbabwean migrants. They will make anything, with their hands. I think we need to change that narrative, because when people go overseas, especially when they cross over through illegal routes, they don't necessarily have a better life in Europe. They don't necessarily have a better life in America or somewhere else. There are all these issues that they're struggling with. And yet here we have opportunities that can be explored if we could get the private public partnership, companies also getting involved. But do you see anything coming out that makes you get a sense of hope?
So, as I said, for me, the fact that African citizens there's still
young,
a demand for democracy. They've not given up. There's people still think that they want their leaders to be elected democratically. That is a hope. The population is also a youthful population. That in itself is also a hope for us. But we also have to realize that at the same time, there are other areas that the average African wants improvement. They want improvement in terms of their living standards. They want improvement in terms of availability of jobs, because there's this question we always ask them, that what is the most important problem that you want your government to solve? We've been asking this question, and you think that, yes, one would have thought that corruption is the most important problem, but issues of employment and others are rather high there. So there are still most important problems that the average African wants to be tackled, but all is not lost. We can still pride ourselves in the sense that we have the useful population, we still have the resources, and once there is a change in attitude, then we can get things done.
100%. I mean, the youthful, early adoptive population, the resources that we have on this continent, if we could travel freely and tap into that would be just magic. And when I think of you traveling, you come with your food when you travel for a long time.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I come.
Yeah,
I come with my food.
Yes, so here at Wasafiri Africa, we always ask people what is it that they like to eat, and it of course it includes whether it's your traditional food, it doesn't matter. But what do you like eating, Saeed?
In terms of the food here?
Yes, on the continent or
on
from
the
Ghana.
Continent, no. Let me not talk about Ghana.
No. If you like it, it's fine.
So in terms, I've been to Uganda. I have eaten matoki.
Yes.
I have eaten this other, is it grasshopper? Very small one.
Yes.
I've eaten that and it's good. I've gone to Kenya. I have eaten this ugali, or how do they call it?
It is ugali.
Ugali, I like it. I like the dawa, the drink. I take it all the time.
You asked for some dawa today for this conversation, right?
Yes. So apart from, there are still good food out there. I've been to, what's the name? I was in Addis Ababa. They gave me this food. I've forgotten the name. It's made of some millet. And it's a bit flat.
The injera, the bread.
Yeah, I know, it's millet. And you eat it with the stew.
Oh, okay, the actual stew. But they give you the bread that you eat with it, right?
Yeah, but this one is a millet made. And every day I was choosing it over rice and all of those things. And I kept eating it. So yes, sometimes I bring my food. That was then the time that I was not really sure whether I will get what I want. But increasingly now I'm being adaptive to the environment, and you could see that my trip I really did not carry.
You didn't carry food. But remind me, what was that food you carried? Was it last year? Yes.
Yeah, last year I came with some local food which we call Kente. Kente is made of millet, and normally I bring the one that is preserved. You can have it for 2, 3, 4 months and it will not get bad. And I come with some hot sauce, which in the local language we call shito. Shito, yes, hot sauce. And normally, sometimes I also come with the jollof rice, frozen one.
Yes, I know, I love it. I just love it, the way you come with a little piece of Ghana with you,
Yeah, sometimes you miss home. I mean, when you come with it, you don't miss home that much, unless you are eating local food, and then that makes you not to miss home so much.
And what kind of music do you like listening to?
I like listening to jazz music, and then I also listen to country music.
Okay, so is it African country music, or is it Nashville country music?
Any country music.
Any country music.
Yeah.
So in the music from the continent, which kind of music do you like it from? I mean, what would you consider country music from the continent?
From the continent, that's the high life. In Ghana we call something called high life.
Okay.
High life.
I've heard of high life, but can you give me an example of maybe an artist?
Somebody like Kojo Anchi.
Okay.
Maybe I've seen a collection of some music here. Even some of the South African music here. I've seen the collection. Remember the last time I had to take my pen drive to take the music that you play here at Ikaya Law.
Yes, so I know. Because here we play Pan-African music.
So I pick some. They are all nice. Yeah.
Kojo Anchi.
Yes.
And Ghanaian high life music is something. I mean, it's like a very old type. Yes,
it's good with Ghanaian high life.
Yes, exactly. So it's still an ongoing genre in Ghana.
Ongoing
genre. There's people still making new high life music.
Yes, it's still there, and even the UNESCO has given Ghana that cultural right for high life, UNESCO.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So high life music. Yeah. It's just like the way reggae became.
Yeah, Jamaican.
Yes.
High life is now attributable to Ghana.
Yeah, because reggae is attributable to Jamaica.
Yes.
Wow, that is incredible. I love the fact that our cultures are being recognized and preserved in that way. Because when you travel in Europe, you see how the European culture is preserved, the music is preserved, and so we need to be more and more aware of that.
Absolutely.
And when you travel, so your work takes you to different parts of Africa, but where do you like in particular to go, or where haven't you been that you would like to go on the continent?
So I've been to so many places. I've always come to South Africa, Cape Town in particular. For the past 5 years, I've always come to Cape Town.
Yay, we're very happy at
And I wish
Ikaya.
I can come more. Cape Town is good. I've been to Kenya several times. I've been to Malawi. I've been to Uganda. I've been to Zimbabwe. I've been to Seychelles. I've been to Comoros. I want to go to Mauritius.
You want to go to Mauritius? Okay, so next time when you go to the Seychelles, just remember you want to go to
Mauritius.
And what is your feeling when you travel on the continent as an African? How does that make you feel?
So, I mean, the sense there's everywhere I go, I feel secured. I'm not afraid of anything. I walk through the cities of Cape Town, from here to Long Street, and come back severally, even picking my items yesterday from Parliament House. I did not take Uber. I walked with my luggage and came here.
Yeah, because you're so familiar with everywhere now.
So I know the place. I've been to Uganda. I walk around and there's no problem. So that sense of security and the many of the people are friendly.
You in particular, especially because your work has exposed you to so much, if there was one thing that you would like to see and come to fruition on the continent, what would that be?
So I want the issue of the currency, the common currency is a problem. You see that I'm in Cape Town. When I got to the airport, I wanted to change money. I asked the lady at the TravelX Forex Bureau, the dollar, she gave me the rate. I said, what about Ghana cedi? She said, whoa, what is that? I intentionally asked, can I change my Ghana cedi here? She was surprised for me asking whether I could change my Ghana cedi into rand. It was not possible. So this common currency thing, even if Africa would not unite politically by electing one president, at least in the area of the economic integration, the common currency, if Africa could use one single currency, the kind of advantages that comes with it, we call it, currency, monetary unification. It's a lot. Ask yourself, why are the Europeans using euro? Why are the Europeans using euro? Why has Germany abandoned the German Denmark, or how do they call it? Deutschmark, and then they are using euro. And the euro is what they are all using. Why are the Europeans using the euro? Why? You can pick 2,000 or 20,000 rand and travel from South Africa to Kenya. When you get to Kenya, change the rand into the Kenyan shilling. You go to West Africa, Ghana, change it to the Ghana cedi, come back to Cape Town and change it back into the rand. You will end up with half of the amount without buying anything. You are just changing the money. This is how exchange rate can undermine the value of money.
I think that's a very wonderful illustration, because it's exactly what happens when somebody is traveling across Africa, because you start with the dollars, you have to start with the dollars. And just this last weekend, there was this African Children's Summit, and some of the children had Kenyan shillings, and they went to the bureau and they were told, no, we don't accept Kenya shillings. Yeah. And I think it's really important that Africa begins to celebrate the whole continent, and we should stop competing with one another in that respect and have a common currency. Yeah. That would be just incredible for trade, for travel, for financial security, even when you cross-border investments. So that's wonderful. I really like that idea. Yeah. And thank you so much for making time to have a conversation with me.
And thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. And you know, the wonderful thing about what we've just done is that we actually sat and, because you and I normally stand at reception and have these wonderful conversations. Yeah. Now we sat down.
For hours, which is good.
We sat down today and had quality time. So thank you so much for sharing about your work, about your thoughts on the continent, what you see where we're going. And, for me, I hope that the whole request for a common currency is something that we will both enjoy in our lifetimes. So thank you so much for being with us, and you're welcome. And I hope that everybody everybody has enjoyed listening to our conversation today and to continue to believe in this continent. Twendeni, Africa is ready.